All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. We are a little bit less, or probably give or take about 6 hours or so, away from the start of the upcoming NBA season. And of course, the chase is all in for that coveted Larry O'Brien trophy. I talked about the Eastern Conference a couple of days ago as far as how I expect things to turn out in that 15 team bracket. And now I'm going to talk about the Western Conference. So I want to start with the defending NBA champions and the Denver Nuggets. They're fresh off of their first NBA championship in franchise history. And of course, the question is always going to be whenever you get a champion, is there going to be a hangover, if you will? And I say this because the Nuggets partied over the summer. You know, you have a lot of people telling you how good that you are. You worked so hard climbing that mountain to get to the mountaintop. Now, will you be able to sustain it when you know that all 29 teams around the league are gunning for you? So it starts with the big fella. And I'm talking about Nikola Jokic, one of the best players in the NBA, regardless of of his position. And you think about Jokic, tremendous passer, not just for a big man, a tremendous passer. Period. He knows how to pass out of the post. He knows how to pass on the run. He knows how to pass from outside. He knows how to pass while driving to the lane. He just has that knack for finding an open teammate. And the thing is, he's a guy that requires so much attention on him from the defensive end of the floor that he's going to open up his offensive teammates. Aside from the big man in Jokic with his passing ability, of course, his ability to rebound, his ability to, make shots from deep, the mid range, the post. He's just so versatile and he's a matchup nightmare for Denver opponents. Now, the Nuggets last year, big reason why they were able to win it all was due to the fact that Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray were both able to stay healthy. Remember, prior to last year, the last time that the Nuggets had a healthy Jamal Murray, they got to the Western Conference Finals back in 2020. And of course, they finally had Jamal Murray healthy again. You had Michael Porter Jr. healthy, as well as Aaron Gordon. And this Nuggets team was ready to, get it going. Now, losing Bruce Brown is going to be very big for the Nuggets. As he was a versatile player that was able to feed off of the attention that the likes of Porter and Murray and Jokic and Gordon, had. So that's going to be an interesting how the Nuggets and head coach Michael Malone account for that. But Denver, I think, is going to once again be a very formidable team in the Western Conference. They got a lot to deal with, like I said, because everybody's going to be gunning for them on a nightly basis because they are the champs. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Nuggets deal with that. Now you got the Golden State Warriors, and as some teams around the league are going for the youth movement, Golden State, they're going to try to get another NBA championship, and they're going to do it with a veteran bunch. You still got these guys that have been around for these NBA championships in the Bay. I'm talking about Steph Curry. I'm talking about Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. You bring in a veteran point guard, Chris Paul, and I'm really going to be interested to see how the Warriors bring CP3 into the fold because this is a guy, he's in the tail end of his NBA career. I think he'd be better served coming off the bench for this team, but it looks like CP3 is going to be in the starting lineup. So it's going to be interesting to see how Warriors head coach Steve Kerr tinkers with that as the season progresses, or does he tinker with it at all? Getting Andrew Wiggins back, and of course, Andrew Wiggins, since coming to Golden State, has been able to really magnify his potential at both ends of the floor. Of course, as a scorer, with what we know that Wiggins can do, but then also the defense. I think he's going to be important for any chance that Golden State has this year. You bring in more veterans with the likes of Rudy Gay. You still got Jonathan Kaminga. You got Kevon Looney. And of course, you still got Gary Payton II. And of course, you traded Jordan Poole to Washington to get Chris Paul. So I look at this team, and of course, when you think about the Warriors, you think about their 3-point shooting, and they jacked up 3-point shots last year just about more than anybody else in the league. They attempted more than 43 3-pointers per game, and it's for the most part, Steph Curry has had the green light. I personally feel that the Warriors should kind of like curb that a little bit because I think some of those are like ill-advised shots, and I think it takes away from what they need to accomplish on offense. The Warriors, to me, in my opinion, are still trying to win like they did 5 and 6 years ago, and I think the league has caught up to Golden State in that sense, and it's time for them to adjust and adapt. Will they do it this season? We got to wait and see. Now you got the Phoenix Suns, and of course, this is a constant changing roster for the Suns. Last year, the Suns midseason made the shocking move just prior to the trade deadline to get Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. The Suns were a favorite heading into the postseason, but of course, that was not the case as they ran into the Denver Nuggets in the second round of the postseason. Since then, Monty Williams has been replaced by Frank Vogel as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. We've also seen Chris Paul be traded to the Washington Wizards. And of course, in return, the Phoenix Suns now have Bradley Beal. Then we saw the Suns trade center DeAndre Ayton to the Portland Trail Blazers. He was a part of that big Damian Lillard deal, which saw Lillard go to Milwaukee. But now Phoenix rather gets back Yusuf Nurkic and Grayson Allen. So this is a very interesting Suns team. I still think that they need themselves a legit ball handler, but it looks like they're going to be playing a lot of ISO with KD, Bradley Beal, and of course, how can we not talk about Devin Booker? So when you're talking about the Suns with KD, with Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal, you're talking about three of the most prolific scorers of this era of NBA basketball when they're able to stay healthy. And that's going to be the key for the Phoenix Suns. Can they keep their key players healthy? The Suns now have some depth around their big three as a guy like Yusuf Nurkic, as opposed to DeAndre Ayton. He can still be effective without the basketball in his hands as a big. And that's going to be key because when you have three guys like Beal, Booker, and Kevin Durant, your shots are limited if you're not one of those guys as far as how many times you're going to get the basketball. So, of course, one of the questions is going to be, do the Suns have enough depth to survive the Western Conference? We're going to find out sooner rather than later. Now, for the Los Angeles Lakers, will things all come together for them? Last year was a tale of two seasons for the Lakers. It looked like things were getting away from them until they had that fire sale just prior to the trade deadline, got some youngsters back, and before you knew it, LA was in the Western Conference Finals. They're going to try to replicate that, obviously, from what happened in the second half of the season and look to build off of that and try to get championship number 18. This is year number 21 for LeBron James in the NBA. He became the NBA's all time leading scorer. Now, of course, he's honing in on becoming the first and only player in league history to reach 40,000 career points. As good as LeBron has been, and as good as LeBron still can be at this stage of his NBA career, the glue, in my opinion, for this Lakers team is that they need a healthy Anthony Davis. AD, for his NBA career, has only been able to appear in 70 or more games twice. And of course, the injury bug continues to haunt Anthony Davis. I'm gonna go out and like I said before, I feel like the Lakers got the most out of Anthony Davis that they're going to get in 2020 when they won that NBA championship in the bubble. And bubble AD is what the Lakers are going to need again if they're going to win an NBA championship. So once again, the onus is going to be on Anthony Davis. There's plenty of talent around LeBron and AD. You got Austin Reeves. Some people call him Hillbilly Kobe, but you know what? This young man can ball. You bring back D'Angelo Russell. Picking up Christian Wood as a big, as a do it all big, as far as doing the dirty work. I think that was a move that went under the radar, and I don't think enough people talked about it over the offseason, but that's big for LA. You bring in Gabe Vincent after he made, after he was part of that playoff run with the Heat. And guys like him and Max Strus, they really made a name for themselves last spring in helping to reach the Heat reach the NBA Finals. Rui Hachimura, this is a kid that I feel like he wasn't reaching his top potential with the Wizards, and I think the Lakers are an organization that he has the potential, that he has the ability to reach that potential, and we saw that last year during LA's run to the Western Conference Finals. This is year number 2 for Darvin Ham as a Lakers head coach. Year number 2 for him as a head coach overall, and I think it's a learning process. We saw the maturation process for Darvin Ham throughout the season, and I think it continues this year as a lot of people are high on the Lakers making another deep postseason run. Now, the team that shares an arena with the Lakers, and that's going to be the Los Angeles Clippers, they had a very uneventful offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for the Clips during this campaign. Now, of course, when you think about this era of Clippers basketball, it's can their two-star players stay healthy? The Clippers went into the postseason looking like a team last year that could make a run. And then, of course, injuries to Kawhi and Paul George really derail that. And that's been a part of them during their time in LA. They can't stay healthy. But, and it's a big if the Clippers can stay healthy, they're dangerous. You still got Russell Westbrook, who I think this is probably the best team for him at this stage of his NBA career. Plenty of depth with the likes of Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris Sr., Mason Plumlee, and of course the big man Ivica Zubac. But again, for Ty Lue, who I don't think gets enough credit for being a quality NBA coach, it just comes down to can his star players remain healthy? Sticking in the Golden State. And of course, I'm not talking about the Warriors, I'm talking about the Sacramento Kings. As last year, we saw all four California teams make the NBA playoffs. And for the Kings, they were the team that a lot of people glossed over heading into last season, and for good reason. I mean, the Kings have been down on their luck for so long. Basically they became an afterthought in the NBA. But the Kings under head coach Mike Brown, they came out of nowhere and showed that they're for real. And this Kings squad is once again legit. De'Aaron Fox is a star. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The guy is the real deal. You got a double machine in Domantas Sabonis. Kevin Herter is a good guy to play off of both Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox. And then you've got that Kentucky connection with De'Aaron Fox. We're talking about Malik Monk coming off the bench. And every place that Malik Monk has been in his NBA career, he's put up points. And I think he's going to do it once again coming off of that bench here this time around in Sacramento. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, they won 40 games last year and got to the play-in tournament. And I think expectations are going to be higher for OKC this time around. We saw what Shea Gilgis Alexander could do last year. He's a real deal scorer, fourth in the NBA last year in that category. Now, after taking Chet Holmgren second overall in 2022, you get to see what he's finally capable of doing. He missed his entire rookie campaign with that foot injury. You got Giddy, excuse me. And, this is one of the younger, more dangerous teams in the NBA. And I think Golden State, pardon me, I said Golden State, OKC, please forgive me, is going to be a force to be reckoned with this year in the West. Now, for the Utah Jazz, they barely missed out on the postseason last year. You can make the case that they overachieved during their rebuilding campaign, but this Jazz team is very talented. You got Laurie Markkinen, who showed what he can do when he gets the shots. You got Jordan Clarkson, a legit, chiseled uh, guard, if you will. You got Sexton coming off that bench, and then picking up John Collins from the trade with the Atlanta Hawks. And I think, John Collins, his time, he kind of, I'm not going to say he wore out his welcome in Atlanta because I don't think that's the case, but I think it was time for a change of scenery for the big fella, if you will. And I think heading back out west to Utah, where he was born at, I think this gives him an opportunity to flourish for the Jazz. And then Walker Kessler, this was a guy who, he was drafted by the Timberwolves. He was part of that Rudy Gobert deal. And this is a shot blocker, and he's only going to get better. And you think about a Jazz organization who has had their fair share of shot blockers over the years. Mark Eaton, excuse me, Thurl Bailey, Rudy Gobert, and I think Walker Kessler eventually is going to add his name to that legacy as well. Now, you've got the Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is an enigma of a team, if you will, because in my opinion, the T Wolves continue to underachieve because they have the talent to be among the best teams in the West, but they simply don't live up to it. Carl Anthony Towns has the ability to dominate on the offensive end of the floor, but I think too often Cat focuses on being a perimeter player, whereas 10 feet and in, there's not a lot of guys around the NBA that can stop him. The linchpin, if you will, of this Minnesota team has shown to be Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is that dude. He's got that legit dog in him, if you will, that you know what we're not going to lose tonight. I'm taking this game over, and I think Anthony Edwards has the ability to be a top 10 player in the NBA this season. You've got Rudy Gobert that the Timberwolves moved heaven and earth to get, but with Rudy Gobert and Carl Anthony Towns, there's too much length, there's too much size for this team to be 23rd in rebounding again, like they were last season. So let's see what's going to change in Minnesota. You've got depth in the backcourt with Mike Conley Jr. and Shake Milton for head coach Chris Finch, but it's just a matter of Minnesota trying to bring it on a nightly basis in order to keep up with the big boys out west. Now, for the Memphis Grizzlies, this is going to be a very interesting year for them. No Ja Morant for the first 25 games of the NBA season as he's serving a suspension. And you're talking about a 22-point scorer per game for his career. Memphis has also decided to move on from defensive stalwart Dylan Brooks as he's now with the Houston Rockets. It was expected that the Grizzlies were going to get Steven Adams back. And now Steven Adams is going to miss the entire season. And Steven Adams was the leader, the heart and soul for this Memphis team. And we saw how not having him, especially in the postseason, affected Memphis's chances rather this past spring. You still got Desmond Bain, you still got Jaron Jackson, and then you bring in some veterans such as Derrick Rose and Marcus Smart. And I think the arrival of both is going to impact Ja Morant. Of course, Derrick Rose played his college ball at Memphis. And you think about Marcus Smart, and I said it when the Celtics traded him, that he was the heart and soul of that team. So now he's going to bring some of that toughness to Memphis. And I think Memphis is going to look to get back to rather their defensive prowess that they had from several years ago. So it's going to be very intriguing to see what Taylor Jenkins is able to get out of this Grizzlies team for the upcoming NBA season. Now, for the New Orleans Pelicans, will this be the year where everything comes together? And just like it was for the Clippers, the Pels have to find a way to stay healthy. I mean, for Zion Williamson, he's only played in 144 games since being drafted by the Pelicans in 2019. What Zion are we going to get? Can he, keep himself in basketball shape in order to contribute like most people know he has the ability to? You got Brandon Ingram, you got CJ McCollum, you got Jonas Valanciunas. So there's a nice blend of talent at different positions for this Pelicans team. It just comes down to can they stay healthy? For the Dallas Mavericks, they missed the playoffs last year. You've got two of the more dynamic scorers of this era, and I'm talking about Luca and Kyrie. Now, these guys are going to put up their points, but is it going to be enough to help Dallas win? And of course, to get Kyrie, Dallas gave up so much of their depth. You still got Tim Hardaway Jr. You bring in Grant Williams, and you got Seth Curry and Markieff Morris. Will Jason Kidd be able to put it all together and get Dallas to the playoffs? We have to wait and see. For the Portland Trailblazers, they are in rebuilding mode, but this team is not that far off. Credit to the Blazers doing what most small market teams like to do. You trade a star player like Damian Lillard, and you get back picks and you get back depth. And not only did Portland trade Damian Lillard and get back picks and depth rather, they also traded Drew Holiday, who was part of that Damian Lillard deal, to the Boston Celtics to get more picks back and more depth. So you're looking at a team right now. You've got yourself an all-star caliber center in DeAndre Ayton from the Suns. You have Scoot Henderson, the third overall pick, who Portland is very high on, and you've got a point guard as a head coach in Chauncey Billups, who's going to look to groom this young man and make him one of the centerpieces, if you will, of this franchise going forward. Anthony Simons, in Lillard's absence last year, showed that he can be a legit scoring option for the Trailblazers. You still got Jeremy Grant. You pick up Robert Williams as part of that deal to send Drew Holiday to the Celtics. You've got yourself a legit big who can rebound. Malcolm Brogdon, the veteran point guard, I don't think that he's going to be in Portland for that long. I think just like Drew Holiday, the Blazers are going to turn around and flip Brogdon for more players and picks. So I'm looking at this Portland team. I think they're going to compete, and I think this Portland team is going to be a tough out in the West on a nightly basis. Then you've got the Houston Rockets. They've lost 177 games over the last 3 years. And you just have to wonder if this is going to be the year that they can finally show some improvement. You've got first year head coach Emi Adoka, who's looking to establish his system with the Rockets. The Rockets were very busy in free agency this offseason. They gave a lot of money to Fred VanVleet, a lot of money to Dylan Brooks. And, you draft a guy like Cam Whitmore to go along with youngsters such as Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and of course, Alperen Sengun. So I look at this Rockets team. I think they're going to be improving as the season progresses. And I think they're going to be very fun to watch. And then finally, there's the San Antonio Spurs. And for the Spurs, they were the mark of consistency in the NBA for so long until they've fallen on hard times. They have 4 consecutive losing seasons, but last year's losing season resulted in them getting the first overall pick. And for the first time since 1997 that this has happened with the Spurs. And just like it was in the last couple of times, they went with a big. In 89, pardon me, 87 rather, they went with David Robinson first overall. 97, they went with Tim Duncan first overall. This time around, it's Victor Wembanyama, the big man from France. So, a lot of people are high on his ability to score, and they're hopeful that he's going to be the centerpiece that turns things around for the Spurs and head coach Greg Popovich. You've got some young talent on this San Antonio team with the likes of Keldon Johnson, who has increased his scoring productivity in each of his 4 NBA seasons. You got Devin Vassell as well. So I think, like the Rockets, I think the Spurs are going to improve as the season progresses. I don't think they're ready to get back to the postseason, but when you've seen the Spurs be so bad as they have been in recent years, obviously you're hopeful that this team is ready to begin turning things around. But when it's all said and done, I think the playoffs are going to look like this. I think out west, Denver gets back to the postseason. I think Golden State gets there. Phoenix gets there. I think the Lakers definitely get there. The Clippers, I think they get there, and I want to see how healthy that this team is going to be able to be this year. I think Sacramento gets there as well. So I think for the second consecutive year, all 4 teams from the state of California will be postseason bound. Playing tournament, I think it looks like it's going to be OKC. I think Minnesota's in that mix for the playing tournament. I think Memphis is there as well, as is New Orleans. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to give the nod to Minnesota, and I'm also going to give the nod to OKC to get to the postseason. I think the West is going to be very top heavy come playoff time. I think that the Nuggets are still in that mix to survive the West. You have to, give plenty of respect to the Phoenix Suns and their scoring ability. Will they have enough defense and depth? We got to wait and see. Also, the Lakers for what they've done, and the same thing can be said for the Golden State Warriors. But I do think that the battles in the conference semis and the conference finals are going to be so intense out west with the likes of the Lakers, Nuggets, Warriors, Clippers, possibly, and Suns possibly all meeting up in the Western Conference Finals and Western Conference semis. But when it's all said and done, I'm going to give the edge to the Lakers to come out of the West. I think they're going to do just enough. I think they have a blend of veteran talent, of course, with LeBron and AD, and of course the youth movement to find a way to survive and get out of the West. I think when it's all said and done, of course, for the NBA, I already talked about the Celtics, in my opinion, coming out of the East. And if you're the NBA, you would love a Lakers versus Celtics NBA Finals. And I think they get that matchup this year. But when it's all said and done, in the battle of who's going to be the first to get to championship number 18 in the NBA, I'm going to give the edge to the Boston Celtics. But I think this is going to be a very intriguing and exciting NBA season, which is set to begin in a couple of hours. So let's tip them up. Let's see has who has what it takes to win the NBA championship this year. Let's see who's going to improve as the season progresses, and let's see once again who has what it takes to take it all and take the Larry O'Brien Trophy home come June. So, folks, that's going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.